Hi there, Madhu.
How are you?
Oh, not so bad. I was apprehensive in case I needed to download some extra software
No, no,
before I
no,
could
no,
view
no,
you.
no, no, no. This is all the technology that you've been building for the past 60 years.
Okay, well, it still doesn't show your mouth moving, so I think there are some delays there.
How are you doing, by the way?
Oh, mixed. Back's not particularly great. I'm getting some physio on my ankle at the moment and my
Oh,
Achilles tendon.
okay, good,
Uh,
good. Yeah.
so I've got lots of exercises there, different ones that add up to all of my core exercises that I do each day.
Mhm.
So I'm now up to between 70 and 75 minutes in the morning,
There you
which,
go.
which I do when I get out of bed.
You're only getting ready for your next swim.
Well, if I could get this place sold in London, if I could downsize from all of the stuff, if you could see the room here with all of this stuff around,
That'll
that's
happen.
just a minor indication. I have four drawer filing cabinets, and I've managed to empty two of them and keep minimal amounts, but I've still got two others to go, and it's really difficult throwing stuff away.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, it'll happen. Yeah. So, Brian, thanks for your time. And I've always, we've had some wonderful conversation with regards to open water swimming uh, from several dimensions, not just from a physical aspect of getting across from point A to point B. So I've always considered you as the Yoda of open water swimming. So here is my question. Okay, what does open water swimming as an adventure sport mean to you, Brian?
Well, it's a challenge, that's for sure. Because I started off with ordinary swimming, pool swimming, and but I found I enjoyed swimming in the open air pool, the unheated open air pool in Coventry, and that could be cold. It was generally below 10 degrees when they opened at the beginning of the season on May 1st. And I guess you sort of test yourself at each of those levels, and then you hear of people doing these other crazy things like 10 miles or 20 miles or swimming down in the Magellan Straits or doing Marathon des Sables and these sorts of things. And so your mind becomes intrigued and can I do that? And in fact, you start to learn your own physiology to some extent as to whether it's perhaps sprint oriented or whether you've perhaps got endurance genes or whatever it is that might be trainable to make you into an endurance person. And so I soon learned that I wasn't necessarily the most powerful sprinter and everything, like 50 meters or anything like that. But I did have some endurance. And so I think that was what attracted me, was an outlet for testing those capabilities.
No, because like when I talk open water swimming with people and when I talk open water swimming with you, or when we are watching a swim happening, you bring several dimensions of open water swimming. One is the math portion, you bring the technology portion, and then at times you bring in some of the Great Lake singers, and then you are evaluating, okay, the currents, the tides, like so. So that's what I was wondering. Like, how does Bryan look at open water swim? What is this? Like, how does he define that? So that's what I was trying to understand, actually. Yeah.
No, it's a wonderful sort of observation in some ways that maybe it's being a breaststroker that you see everything that's ahead there. I sometimes feel that I'm more in control of my swim because I know where I'm going. I know what I want to line up in front to stay in a straight line, not just aiming for a point and drifting with a tide either side. So learning tricks like that, you can't do that necessarily in the ocean, but you can do it on most lakes. And so I think having more control over yourself, knowing how your body's responding, it doesn't matter whether it's sugar inputs, and then that gets you into a whole area of what happens to your abilities to absorb these foods and things when your body starts getting cold or starts getting tired of every 30 minutes for 12 hours of having the same sort of sugary drinks. And your stomach says, no, this isn't for me. And so you're ready to accept something else, like at the end of a Lake Ontario swim where somebody hands you crushed up potato chips, salty things, and it's such a nice change that your body accepts it, and you can get back possibly into absorbing some stuff, although you may have to slow down a bit on what you were taking in earlier.
Great, amazing. Yeah, I know we've had so many wonderful conversations. What was your, like, do you have any memory of your first open water swim, and how did you embrace like open water swimming as a sport? And yeah,
I guess I've got sort of 3 items that all came together that same first year. And the local long distance swimmer, marathon swimmer, was Arthur Ayres, and he had been around for several years, had been champion in Morecambe Bay. And so Arthur said, there's the Windermere Championship coming up in August, and I think you should enter that. And that was jumping straight to 10 miles from doing fast 2-milers in the open air pool. And then another friend, who subsequently is from the channel, Peter Fergus, said to me, no, you want to do something shorter, earlier. And I went to, so I went up to Morecambe. They had an inshore swim where you swim out to a marker buoy and back again. It was about an hour's swim. And so I started on my breaststroke there, and these guys were too fast for me. So I changed over to front crawl. And I managed to place, they had 3 separate heats leading up to a finals.
Okay.
And I managed to get into the finals, which was a couple of weeks later, I think it was. And it was held up in Morecambe, and it was going to be in the bay, but it was so rough. And so they held it in an open air pool. But it wasn't until the afternoon, and we were all set to go at 10 o'clock in the morning. So I sat in the sun, in the bleachers, in this open air pool, waiting for the start of this swim. And I remember there was just, I'd made my mind up. I was going to do freestyle on it. And there was just one guy that was in front of me that beat me. And then there was another one that I beat. He stopped once or twice. He got cramp or something. And I remember getting this, I've got it in the other room there, a little gas lighter, very fancy gas lighter. And I remember when it was being handed out, the fellow turned to the fellow that was handing it out, turned to the fellow who was third and said, "This was intended to be yours." So I knew where I was in the ranking there.
Okay.
But that was that was a relatively short swim. And Peter Fergus said, that's not good enough. Let's go up to Coniston and we'll do a Coniston swim together, which is a 5-mile swim, where the water speed records had been conducted in the past. So we go up there and I swim with Peter, and I'm swimming back at his pace, and until we get to the final curve and the last 200 meters into the finish, and he sticks his head down and his feet start flapping. This guy's 6'6" and 200 pounds. He was a big guy, and so I hung with him, and we finished together. 3 hours dead. Broke the record by 10 minutes. The two of us. It wasn't probably the best of things for me for the following week when we went to Windermere. That I've got it in my mind now, record breaking. I can show them. And so I look at the field of swimmers in the program, and there's Jerry Forsberg, Commander Forsberg, Joe Smith, somebody else and somebody else. And I thought, you know, I think I could be third here. And so we start off and we're heading up. We haven't got to the 1 mile point yet. And I can see a couple of arms catching the sunshine, and I'm doing breaststroke this time. And I catch up with one of them, and then apparently he got out.
It's too cold.
Well, I don't know. Or like me, not being properly prepared for it. And I caught the other one at about the 3 mile mark, and that person dropped behind. And so I held the lead for 5 miles, and until I'm not sure whether it was Joe. I don't know. I don't think Mike Jennings was in that one. I think it would have been Joe Smith came by. So the 5 mile mark is around the ferry on Windermere, and we hung in there until we got into the islands, where you swim through the islands before you get onto the top end of the lake, and it's relatively shallow through the islands. It's a great place for feeding. And I remember standing there, and I drank all this dextrose liquid that I'd got, and I don't remember anything after that, but I swam another 2 miles. And my friend from Coventry, Norman Lyons, who was on the English water polo team, Norman was there as my safety person in the boat. And apparently from when we got through Belle Isle, he got in the water with me, apparently, and then got out a little later on. But another half mile ahead, I'm swimming and going down. I'm totally unconscious, swimming and going down. And I said to Norman, jump in. And he said, I just been in, it's cold in there. Anyway, they fished me out. And the story was they got me onto, because there's a powerboat goes backwards and forwards along the course in case of emergencies to pick up people. And they picked me up, and I apparently was on the boat and warming up, and I can't remember what it was now. A girl was on the boat apparently, and she said, would you like some oranges or whatever it was? And apparently I responded, oranges. And I don't remember that. Okay. So that was the first 3 there that really linked it all together. The challenge was on. I did it the next year.
Way to go. Yeah, I think that's what I've read from all the articles on you. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was the thing that really set the challenge for me, and respect for the older guys. And the older guys being 40 plus at that time.
So I think you went on to get an engineer. Like, did you finish your PhD in England or was it in Canada, Bryan?
I was in Scotland.
That was in Scotland, yeah. And you went on to work with Rolls-Royce, right?
Yeah, that's where I did my apprenticeship with
Okay.
Bristol Siddeley Rolls-Royce, and they had. And I left school at 16, and was on a day release once a week to go to the community college.
Okay.
And at the community college, they sort of put you into one of two realms. One was a practical one, where you would learn a lot about machine tools, and the other was a more theoretical one. And I got onto the more theoretical one, and I did really well in that. I got an award for my highest marks or something. I don't know whether it was locally or in the country, but the president of the college was there, and the head of the training program from Bristol Siddeley was there together. And so there's a picture of me receiving this award there. And I got the second best apprenticeship award in my second year of my 5-year apprenticeship, which was kind of unknown.
What was the project that you worked on?
There were different things that we worked on there. There was a metallurgical laboratory. Eventually, I got through to working on automatic control systems. But there were two facilities. There was one in Coventry, set up in Coventry, and the other one was at Anstey, which was about 3 miles away, which was on a disused aerodrome. And they actually tested their rocket motors and gas turbine engines out at Anstey. And so I was out there. I went to the training school, and then I went through different other sections, and the test houses was one of them. And that was good for me, because after setting up the engines, there would be a bit of time before the engineers would come in to run the test on them. And so we'd have spare time. And I'd sit on the roof with another fella, an older fella, and we would go through examples that we got from college. And he was from a different college than I was. He was from Nuneaton, I was from Coventry, and we got different examples. So we would do their examples. And I think this is how I did so well in the ordinary national certificate with all my high marks, was because I had so much time there learning. I tend to learn well by doing and redoing things, as opposed to what one of my colleagues called in medical biophysics flypaper memory. And he used this insult quite often for physicians who could remember anything you told them. But he said the challenge when they come into medical biophysics, when we get them for a year or something before they complete their medical degrees, is to get them to think independently and novelly and critically, rather than being asked a standard question and giving the answer immediately.
Yeah, I'm with you on those things. Yeah, so so from Coventry to Ontario.
No. Coventry was my engineering degree, and my supervisor. I worked on an automatic control system, which was supposedly for controlling the exhaust temperatures of gas turbine engines. So they were putting gas turbine engines in trains at that time, but they had a problem of overheating during the summer months. So they'd been talking to my supervisor about this, and they'd been advising them, I think. And so he gave me this little project for measuring exhaust gas temperatures. And when and I did really well in his course. And in fact, he ended up being my boatman on a number of my swims later on. Tremendous relationship ongoing there, from the academic side to the social side and professional side. And I was telling him, because that was my final year when I was doing that particular course, the control systems engineering. And I was looking for jobs, different jobs and things then. The problem as I saw it was Bristol City was very organized to the extent that their salaries were very fixed on your experience and your qualifications. So it didn't matter whether you came out as top of the course at the college or whatever, you would get the same as anybody who'd got an honours degree there for your age. And so I was looking around at other options, and I had one interview down in London. I can't remember what it was now. It was like a heating company, a big national heating company. Anyway, I didn't get it, and I'm looking through the journals, and I see this advert for ship engineer sailing out of Liverpool. I would have been terrible. I get seasick all the time. But I was looking at this, and I was telling Sandy that I was wanting to do this, I think. And he said, no, don't use your talent on that. He said, I was recently down at Sperry Gyroscope, where they're making missile control systems for sea-to-air missiles and that sort of thing. And he said, I think you could fit in well there. I had an interview and I got the job straight away. Did really well there, learned lots of stuff, met my wife, my wife to be, Helen. And so she's saying, you know what, she was far more experienced about academics and everything, life, I think. And she said, you should be doing a PhD. And I said, no. PhDs, that's rich people who are very clever, who've got the money to be able to go off and spend time to show that they're clever again. And so I was pretty strong-minded about some things like that, coming from a very working class background. And so I continued looking at journals, at the journals and things of the Professional Association, the Institution of Mechanical Engineers. And I see this position advertised in Glasgow at a biomedical engineering unit. Step backward, Sandy, my supervisor, who I had this special relationship with, he was doing an external degree while he was teaching there on elbows. Okay. And I was fascinated by that. And he said, but Bryan, you can't go straight in to the medical area. There's not a hierarchy of engineers there, at least at that time. You go in there and they really need you to be knowledgeable at all levels. There's very little for guidance. He said, you need to get experience before you talk about that sort of thing. So, so the move down south was precisely that in some ways, although it was way in the back of my mind still by that stage. But I saw this advert for a position, and they were looking for somebody to teach instrumentation in bioengineering. And so I applied for the job. I got an interview. And I fly up there to Glasgow, and I arrive outside the university, and it's locked. And I'm standing at the door. It was a holiday, an official holiday. And so I'm standing at the door, and then this fella comes up to me, and he said, are you Bryan Finlay? And I said, yeah. He said, I'm Professor Kennedy. He said, the place is locked today. It's a holiday. But I want you to see my colleague, Tom Gibson, who jointly ran the unit together, and he was a plastic surgery professor and leader, head at a local plastic surgery hospital. So we go out to this hospital and we go into the operating room because that's where we're going to meet Tom. That's the only place and time we can get to see him. And Bobby Kennedy says, don't touch anything, especially if it's got green covers on it. He said, I did, and they kicked me out of the room. So I'm standing there with my arms pressed against my abdomen while I'm watching these incisions. And so if you're making a known incision, it's not surprising that blood comes out. But when you're watching somebody else do that for the first time, and you think it's totally out of control. And this was a very straightforward operation where they actually lifted a bit of tissue, put it up onto the face, because they're removing a tumor on the face. It's called a delayed flap, and they leave it attached then for a couple of weeks or so, and then they undo this end and put it up there when the blood supply has developed on the other side. Anyway, the interview went really well, and so I ended up getting an assistant professor, assistant lecturer position. They're lecturer positions in Britain. And so I got a raise from being in industry. I'm in engineering, and I'm earning money still as well. And Helen managed to get a job then at YARD, Yarrow Admiralty Research Department, where they were doing similar sorts of simulations on ship control systems. So that was the move there. PhD in 3 years, continued working for 2 years after that, because the feeling was to get advanced beyond. I'd already got onto the lecturer scale. To get into the senior lecturer scale, you really needed your BTA, I was told. Been to America. And so I look at these different options of American universities and the stipends and things, and it was less money than I was getting. So with my working class attitude, that wasn't good enough. No, I'm not going to do that. And so I'm continuing there to work happily. And Bobby Kennedy calls me in his office one day, and he said, had some interesting people come from Canada the other day. They wanted to have a look around our facilities at Canispan, the plastic surgery unit, and they're fascinated in what we're doing. And he said they've got this new hospital that's being built in London, Ontario, and they've heard that bioengineering is the latest thing. This was 1972. And they've got a committee of the university and the hospital people, and they're looking for somebody. And every time one of their physicians or somebody is going out to another country, to a center where they've got something, then they go around and have a look at it. Well, apparently they were pretty impressed by Strathclyde's, and I'm not surprised they were. It was a wonderful setup. And he said, it's a rather glorious job description. He said, Americans tend to do that. He said, it may not be exactly as it reads there at the moment, but if you want to follow it up, he said, I'll certainly support you. And that meant being able to get out of teaching early in the year. Anyway, I flew over for the interview, nothing happened. We'd drive home from work one day from Glasgow, get home, the phone rings, I pick up the phone, this is London, Ontario, are you still interested in this job? And I said, yeah. He said, well, we'd like to interview you and fly you over. And so that same thing happened after the interview with a long wait. And so I ended up going to the customs, whatever, the passport place in Glasgow, and saying I need an okay to travel to Canada. And they said, have you got a job? Oh no, they said, when do you want to start? And I said, next month. And 4 weeks time it was. And the fellow laughed at me. And he said, have you got a job offer? And I said, yes. And he looked at it and said, oh, it's a hospital, is it? And he goes off and chats with his boss out the back and comes back, rubber stamps. That was the trip to from
Canada.
Yeah, to Canada.
Way to go. Way to go. Beautiful. This is in 1973?
That was 72, 1972.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's nice. Okay. And how did you meet? Yeah. How did you meet swimmers in Ontario?
and that's a good one as well, especially on the open water side. I was working at the university, hadn't done any swimming. I started going at lunchtime to their indoor pool at the university, and I started doing some life-saving classes.
Okay.
And I even had my wedding shoes that I was wearing for my life-saving classes. And there was an advert on the wall at one point, and it was for the first senior masters something like that, senior masters games or something. Okay. And it was in Toronto. And I thought, oh, whole lot of old folk having to go here, and you got different age groups. I'll enter that. So I entered it, and I got to the pool at the Tobacco, and I opened up the program, and I thought, oh, they've got it all wrong. They've put down their best ever times during their lifetime, not their time now that they're 40. It was a time that they were 40. That was a real eye-opener. And I think I had a 3rd place in the 200 IM.
Okay.
But didn't place on my breaststroke event. And that got me into masters swimming. And then with the masters swimming, I saw open water things. And a colleague, Bob Miles, who was here in London, he was an ex-nurse and a minister as well, a church minister. He was a fascinating character. He would take on anything. He didn't like lots of paperwork, though. And so he started the St. Mary's swim.
Okay.
And then it sort of became more serious after it had been so successful the first couple of years, that it was going to involve lots of paperwork and organization and everything. And Bob backed off. He and his wife also moved to Manitoba. And so I had the St. Mary's swim with lots of possibilities for personal development there and meeting other people. And what happened at one of them, and I can't remember at exactly what time it was now, 1990s anyway, Bob Weir enters.
That's where you met Bob Weir. Okay.
And he says, so you've done some open water swimming, have you? He's the guy that's done a couple of the big lakes out west, and as well as
Lake Winnipesaukee.
Yeah, well, I helped him with that one. Yeah, and that was a tremendous experience. But what Bob said to me was, if you're interested in Lake Ontario, we should go out and do a training swim together. So this was the beginning of September. Of course, the St. Mary's swims, we always held on the first weekend of September. After the public holidays were over, they closed the pool, the open air pool. So we got it for free. And, except what we might need to give to lifesavers, 2 or 3 lifesavers. And so we went up to Lake Simcoe, and we did a 10-mile swim on Lake Simcoe. And he said, oh, you're not bad. He was doing his freestyle, and I was doing my breaststroke still. And so that was how we got into that. And then, of course, I was helping Bob with his swims, and Winnipesaukee was one, and that was a tremendous swim. Can't remember the name now. It was the centennial of the town. There. and they have a picture. Where is it? Let me. I can't see where it is. Oh yeah, there's a boat and a swimmer there. This was all part of their publicity.
Nice.
And they had this picture of Bob.
Okay.
And they handed out a couple of these things afterwards. And it was just beautiful conditions. And we had instrumented with core temp. And of course, the temperature was up over 90 Fahrenheit. It was crazy. And he finishes, there are a whole load of news reporters there. And he comes out and is all alert and everything. And he's chatting to them and everything. All of a sudden, boom, he collapses.
Collapses, okay.
And so he ends up at the hospital overnight. And we get to know one of the physicians there. His name eludes me at the moment, but I wrote a paper on it along with this fellow's name involved in it all. Orthostatic hypertension, it was called. Standing up, low blood pressure.
Yeah. Yes.
And it's not uncommon among marathoniers. And one way of combating it, compression stockings.
Okay.
Can help quite a bit. I don't know whether you ever encountered that with your marathon runs or not.
No, I did after my 10-hour swim in the bay.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, that happened to me in Southern Rowing Club. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know whether you'd perhaps seen runners using the compression stockings at all for their needs.
When I was flying back from Morocco after my MD Marathon des Sables, I had a pair of compression socks on the flight over. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Well, I suffered a deep vein thrombosis and blocked up vein in my calf, and that led to some lung emboli.
Okay.
And so I got prescribed some later on. That was a bit later on.
There you go. Good. And how did you get involved with solo swims, Bryan? Yeah.
Well, that was obviously Bob.
Bob. Okay.
And Bob, he's a dynamic individual. He liked to do everything himself. But he didn't want to spend time having to discuss it and get his silly ideas. And he put everything, he got everything organized, all paperwork and everything. The safety manual, he put together all by himself initially. And he wanted somebody to work on the accounts that would follow his instructions. He was a financial analyst, and was used to reading these detailed reports of balance sheets and everything. And SSO just didn't have that sort of thing at that time. And so he introduced me to that. And then, of course, I'm a bit of a geek in terms of that sort of thing with numbers and everything. And so I adapted to that. And so we got along like a house on fire. It was wonderful.
Way to go. Good. Yeah. I know you've always mentioned Peter Fergus several times in our conversation.
Yeah.
So I was trying to, who were your, childhood idols? From an adventure exploration perspective, who did you look up to?
Well, I imagine Jerry Forsberg was one of them, although it was a while before I got to know Jerry at all well. And then we were good friends later on. I think I admired Joe Smith. Mike Jennings came along behind him. And on the women's side, there was Elaine Gray, who I think got onto the professional circuit. I think she may be in IMSHOF.
Yeah, I'm gonna check. Yeah, I'm gonna look her up. Yeah.
Yeah. I went for a meal once with her while I was working down in Bracknell, and I don't know that we'd got really similar interests at all. I don't know what. I don't even remember what her interests were beyond swimming, and that's what would have perhaps attracted me.
Yeah, Elaine Gray is in IMSHOF. Yeah.
Yeah,
she is. Yeah, nice. Yeah.
There were some of the marathon ladies like Loch Ness, the big ladies who can stand the cold, and stand the cold better than some of the men. And perhaps we saw that on the North Channel as well.
Right, yeah. When did you meet Kevin Murphy?
I'm looking at my cheat sheet here to get the dates right.
Okay.
1964 at Windermere, so I've been around for 4 years by that time.
Okay.
And the championships were on. And so somebody comes to me at the end of the swim and said, there's this young guy, he's only 15, he wasn't old enough to enter in the championship. And he wants to have a go at the lake tomorrow. And so would you go with him on his boat and be the observer for it? So we go off on that swim, and it was fascinating because his dad was with him. It was just me and his dad. His dad worked with the post office system, and it's easy to jump to the next stage, which was actually 4 years later, and it really made a name for himself by that time. And he was entered in a two-way championship, and Barry Watson won it. Okay. But again, it was me and his dad. He asked me, and I came down from Scotland to go on his boat with him, and we get 7 miles down the lake, and approaching Lakeside. We've got 3 miles to go, and Kevin is in the water, and I'm jumping up, and his dad, who had been so nervous on his very first swim and really didn't have much input at all to anything, his dad, this is on the two-way swim, his dad said, don't worry, he'll get it up and he'll be away. And his dad had learned so much more in that time, and so importantly, knowing your swimmer that's in the water, to be a good observer or supporter, knowing the person and their behavior, and, and particular words that they might use, whether they swear normally or whether that means something in particular about their mind or their physical state at that time. But and he came in second on that one. But I just remember that spot about. And his dad was just so supportive. Wonderful.
Way to go. Way to go. Beautiful. Yeah.
And then he went on and did so many other things after that.
Yes.
Now we exchanged perhaps a note at Christmas.
Very nice. Yeah. So that's a wonderful friendship that you have with Kevin Murphy.
Yeah.
And you've met some amazing swimmers at solo swims. Like, can
I go back a moment on that one? There was another one, because I went, as I was trying to get back into it again, as I was older, as I was into my 50s, leaving it a bit too late. In 2006, which was my last one, I think, I went to Windermere to the championship. And Kevin, his wife Jane, and his son Matt were in the same race.
Wow. Okay.
And I was level with Jane at the Islands. I think she pulled away after that.
Okay.
And then I had a wonderful picture of me at the end of that swim with Jerry Forsberg and Godfrey Godfrey Beaton, who used to row for Jerry Forsberg.
Okay. Okay. And any other channel swimming characters that you have met? I know you met Chris and Peter Gibbs, Duncan Taylor.
Chris and Peter Gibbs. That was interesting because that was Chris was 2002 when I did my first channel attempt, and it was 20 hours. And I found out afterward, because we stayed at the Varn Ridge holiday camp, which was a marvelous place. Evelyn and David Francescu were the marvelous people. They're the ones that should be the honorees, because the camp has been handed over to somebody else now and taken down all the signs and everything that were there. So we had met at Varn Ridge, and that was a great group. And we never did get together anything for a sing-song. And as I didn't know he was a musician. That he was with the Merry Men in Barbados, and they would quite often go out on visitor cruises and things, and be playing and everything. He played a bass guitar, and I've got a copy of both of their CDs. He sings on one of them. He's not the main singer in the group, but he sings "Barbados I Love."
Okay.
A wonderful deep voice and everything, and it's just so from the heart.
Okay.
He was the first person, and I think he may still be the only one from Barbados to swim the channel.
Okay.
He's got, and that kind of links in then with this other fellow, Peter Gibbs, who has some family in Toronto, and came up a couple of times to swim in some of the distance swims, the one out at Brights Grove in particular. I didn't really get to know him, but he then swam across Lake Ontario.
Yes, yeah.
And is the only Bryan, I think, to have swum Lake Ontario. He was another reason for respect. He was a physicist, or taught physics at the University of Barbados. He may be retired now. Chris sadly died just recently.
Okay. I think Peter is still looks like it. Peter might still be the oldest person to have swum across oldest man to have swum across Lake Ontario.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
I need to check that. Yeah, I'm going to check that after the call. Yeah. And did you meet George Brunstad?
I didn't meet him there. What happened was my second swim on the channel, 2003, was a disaster. I had wax earplugs that broke in my ear. I was cold and I was out within 6 hours. It started at night and finished after 6 hours. And I ended up going to the hospital in Folkestone, and then eventually having to have these things removed, the material removed here in London.
Okay.
But we were on about George, and so it was my third time over there, and I waited the whole tide, and I'd been over there, sort of advised a week or so before the tides, and it was the day I was due to go back. I wake up from the caravan at the Van Ridge place, look out, it's beautifully clear. George swims the channel on that day. Now, he is quite a bit older, and the reason I had watched some of his stuff was because he was in the same age group as my friend Dick Wyke, physiologist, and he had been an All-American, I think, butterfly swimmer when he was younger. So because the two of them were in similar age groups, I had followed him in his times. But I get intrigued by, I think I mentioned previously, about people who do other things. And he had been an airline pilot.
Yep.
And he had his own Sabre jet.
Yes. Yeah.
that he flew. And I thought this was wonderful. And then I see the charity work that he and his wife are doing with children in one of the islands. And so and George, of course, by then I'm following him. He goes and swims Lake Winnipesaukee after Bob did.
Yes. Yeah. Nice. Okay.
So we never became really close friends, except that I felt a really close attachment to him, just because of all of his interests and achievements.
Yes. Okay. And
he I don't know whether you knew, he was the uncle of Matt Damon.
Yeah, he was Matt Damon's uncle. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know that he promoted it or whether Matt Damon.
No. They were very like Matt Damon actually mentioned once in a print article. That's about it. Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's great.
And, I was part of the syndication and smart groups, and I actually communicated a lot with George Brunstead when I was training in San Francisco. A wonderful person. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, unfortunately, we did not have the cloud storage those days, so I'm sure like I have a lot of picture and content in some laptop that I can't even boot up right now. Yeah. Very good. Yeah. So, do you remember when I was helping Liz Fry get across Lake Huron?
Yeah.
You met us at the finish. Like, do you remember that?
Oh yeah, well, quite an attachment there, because John Bolsher. There are only 3 people that have done that route, and there's only a 4th one, Vicky Keith, that's gone across the lake without a wetsuit on.
Yeah,
and she went across to Godrich, an amazing swim. And so I had been with Bob on his swim and landed at Port Franks, which is where our cottage is located. It's they call it a private beach, but everybody seems to get to use it. Where John Bolsher landed, and that was interesting because he was doing it raising funds for a charitable group, and he's walking out of the water, and of course I'm the swim master and nobody's supposed to touch you, and I'm trying to get people away, and there's ladies there wanting to tuck $10 bills into his trunks. So you turn a blind eye because he's walking out, he's up to his knees by that stage, and it's
good, yeah.
So and then Paula Stephenson, Bob Weir wanted to take her across on that route. He said, because we know it's a pretty good route, pretty safe, and so I remember welcoming her along at the beach with all of her family, and photograph them sitting all along the rocks. So when Liz wanted to do the swim, I was really keen to try and promote it as much as possible. And I had a guy from it was a personally owned newspaper that he had in Sarnia or somewhere, and he came along to do the write-up for her. And he was interesting in that he had his wife with him, who was wheelchair bound. And so everywhere he was going, his wife was going with him as well on these things. And I had a piece of art from a local artist, Jeffrey George.
Great George, yeah.
From the local reservation at Hippowash. Except he lived outside the reservation at that stage in the town of Port Franks. And I got this painting from him of Sweat Lodge and presented it to Liz at the end of a swim. She had finished, the river comes out just at that point onto the beach, and it meanders around depending on the time of year, backwards, forwards, but it's always relatively shallow. But she landed on the other side of it and needed to wade across and then going across, and you're trying to tell the people that this is a swimmer coming in, just come from the other side, from Port Sanilac and that sort of thing. Yeah, so I definitely remember that. And Liz remembers it because it leads into my honoree status.
Yeah.
And my introduction was going to be made by Marilyn Bell. But she wasn't able to make it. And then it was COVID. And so it ended up being done online.
Yeah.
But this was the one that was a hell of a task to have to take on, with all of my detailed early background and everything, to make a presentation for somebody like that. Marilyn had known me for a bit longer, so really followed Liz in all of her activities as well. In fact, I didn't know whether I should wear my sash.
You should. Beautiful, yeah. Bryan Finlay, PhD, yeah. Nice. Way to go. And as I mentioned earlier, yeah, you're one person where, okay, when we are talking about a swim, or when we are like watching a swim, like watching the red dot, you mentioned Stan Rogers, or you mentioned Gordon Lightfoot at times.
Yeah.
And during the dark patches of a swim, like, what do they mean to you, Bryan?
Oh. Gordon Lightfoot is well established, and his son, the legend lives on from the Chippewa on down, the big lake they call Gitche Gumee. I think many people probably know those lines. But what happened was, I was sitting watching television here one night, and there's this documentary on One Warm Line. It was called One Warm Line, and it was about Stan Rogers.
Okay.
And I was mesmerized. I got my camera taking pictures of the television of all of these different scenes of him. He had this. He was never a sailor, apparently. Although he got the links with the East Coast and really supported that area, he was based in Ontario, but made these incredible songs. So the one about the Great Lakes was White Squall. And living up on Lake Huron as we do, I know how quickly the weather can change. And there's a big bay there. It's about 10 miles wide out to Long Point, out to the point. And when the storm's coming in, and it invariably comes in from the west, you'll see a line of boats rushing to get back to the harbor.
Okay.
And so Stan's song White Squall. So it's just my luck to get the job, with nothing left to do but watch the deadly breakers as they roll on to the Sioux. And it conjures it all up and how quickly it can happen, and how devastating it can be.
Yes.
And so then you've got the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, bloody big tanker there that goes down and to the bottom. The wrecks on the Great Lakes are quite interesting to follow. And there's a guy called Lee Murdoch from Michigan area, and he sings all about the Great Lakes, the 5 Great Lakes.
Yeah.
Sweet Mother Michigan, Father Superior, heading down from Mackinac and Sault Ste. Marie. Blue water Huron rolls down into Lake Erie. She falls into Ontario and rolls on out to sea. And Liz Fry commented after she swam Lake Huron about the blue.
Yes. The Asian blue. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah. So what else? Yeah. What else is happening in your life, Bryan, other than physiotherapy and getting ready for your next swim?
I'm not sure it's getting ready for my next swim. It's downsizing. Didn't say anything about.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah.
I was there when you got that. Signature.
No.
Oh, this was.
This is the one that my cousin, Helen's cousin, got.
Yes.
Down.
You brought that cap to the dinner. Yeah.
Yes. That's it. But it was you that introduced us.
Yep.
Us Ontarians to Lynn, and that was a wonderful gathering at the
it was
PCYC, Port Credit Yacht Club. So I remember that, and I don't know how you twisted her arm to go there. She must be an awfully busy person. She has so many things on the go. I love her writings as well, but she is another person who is beyond swimming. Her Bering Strait crossing, in terms of the politics and bringing together Russia and America.
Powers,
That was wonderful. So the other things I've got on the go at the moment, a daughter in Australia, Alison, is the one that gets into ultra marathons. And she's a lawyer, and I don't know where she finds the time to do these things, but she goes off on these 7-day things. So you'd appreciate it with Marathon des Sables and things. She was never the fastest runner at school. She enjoyed cross-country running at school. And I think, I don't know whether I put her off it or not, but I would run from different points across the course to cheer her along at the next point, and then cut a corner and get to another point and cheering her along.
Beautiful, yeah.
And so we had that tight relationship there. She put together a group, Halifax Transformations, meaning transforming yourself in terms of body appearance and weight, and also fitness more than anything, focusing on fitness. And so when she would have these programs, she would ask me to put together an Excel spreadsheet or something, and then collect the data through SurveyMonkey and put it all together in these different charts and things. And so she got another one that started on Monday.
Oh, okay, nice.
That's a 6-week one called Transformation. So I need to get back to a little bit of walking. I don't know that I'll get into the pool, but the physio also told me that I should start again my walking to exercise my Achilles tendon. So I did a 4K the other day, and I hadn't done that for months. So I'm feeling fairly happy about it. We'll see how it goes.
Okay, way to go. Very good. Yeah. So
the worst thing you can do on these things is start off too excitedly and then crash at the end. That's not the intent. of these fitness programs. The intent is that there should be a build-up, and you should come out feeling better than you did when you started.
Yes.
And which reminds me that so many of our swimmers, in their build-up, and they've got it in their mind that they've got to do this big one before they do it, not necessarily the trial swim, but a bigger one, and they get too close, and then get to their swim and they've got a shoulder injury.
Yeah.
And there are so many cases that you hear of among our Lake Ontario aspirants, and other swims as well, that have these sorts of injuries, of over enthusiasm or something. Getting up late one day because you're tired or something, but saying I've still got to do the workout. And your mind
I know what you mean. Yeah, I've been there.
Well, you still get up at some crazy hours to go and encourage those folk at Coronation Park. I don't know how you do that.
That's just a bad habit.
Okay.
Bryan, wonderful connecting with you. Most importantly, I've enjoyed your friendship and all the open water silly things that we've done. Thanks for your support and and sharing your stories. Okay.
Well, enjoy it. It's nice to pass on some things.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
I think feeding is one of the ones now that there are so many expensive protein, sugar mixes and things out there. But once you get beyond 12 hours, trying to work on the same food, and very few people have gone beyond 12 hours. And so it's all of a shock to them all of a sudden. And if they've been training in fresh water and they go into salt water, then it can be amazing different. There were guys like Abu Heath and Peter Fergus, my friend Peter Fergus. They could eat anything. They said Abu Heath used to have show off boxes of green bananas being lifted onto his boat. Now, I don't know that he ate those, and I think it may have been to con some of the other suckers into trying it. But some people have a cast iron stomach, and it doesn't matter whether it's fresh water, salt water, acid, or sugar.
Yes. No, I agree with you. Yeah. Beautiful, Bryan. Thank you very much. Yeah. We'll stay in touch, okay?
Okay. And thank you. Thank you. Keep up the good work.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
You're doing a great promotional job there. You and Ned and Beth you'd have been, and I had my other note. Melissa. Well, I know there's somebody else on the committee as well.
Nora, Richard, and Alice.
Okay, but Melissa put, and I don't know that she was able to travel very often.
She can't travel much. Yeah, exactly.
She put a lot of effort into it. Really respected that. You're doing a great job together.
Thank you, Bryan. Cheers. Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye.